All right, kids. So it's time for another joyous thing. Grabbing my water. Yes, there's boxes here because I'm doing eBay sales. Yes, woo, sales, trying to make money. But yes. So where are we now? Let's see. Last time I talked to you, crazy people, uh, I had hoped that the government shutdown was going to finally complete, and aside from my predictions, it did. For those who think that the Democrats who went across actually made a bad idea, let me remind you that right now, and this is actually very interesting, Trump does not know what to do about the ACA or anything like that. He doesn't know how to fix it. One day he had an idea, now he doesn't. So, I wonder why. I wonder what's going on in his head. Also, in other news, he basically was accused of, it wasn't true, by the way, of becoming intimate with Bill Clinton's nether regions. Because apparently that's a thing that they're freaked out about. But speaking of freakouts, yes, I know I'm jumping around, deal with it. We also have the wonderful little freakout that is, oh no, Zoran Mandani won, and now Trump is catering to him. First off, Trump's not doing anything that's not expected by Trump. Because remember, kids, Zoran Mandani is the mayor of New York. Trump has things in New York that he wants to keep running. He wants to keep owning. He wants to make himself look good. So why else would you not play nicey-nicey with the new mayor of New York? I mean, for God's sake, he even called himself a fascist. Hello? Think about it. So, we have that going on. We had Prop 50 pass, as you know. Supposedly now they can't do anything with Texas stuff, but newsflash, I'm pretty sure they're going to try. It's Paxton and Abbott. What else do you think is going to happen? Then, of course, you have the release of the Epstein Files. While I may not sound happy about it, there's a reason. And here's the following. All that is going to be released for the Epstein Files, mark my words on this, is going to be what they want to be released. And to be frank, we're going to run into the same problem we did with everything else that gets released to the public. Nothing good is going to come from it. Oh yes, we're going to have a bunch of people leave. We're going to have a bunch of people retired, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene is. Yes, all hail the cat. As you can see, it is a cat. Marjorie Taylor Greene is leaving, and I guarantee you're going to have a bunch of other people resign or be forced to resign. Congratulations. That's just going to slow everything down, and we don't need things to slow down. We actually need to try and make sure that things are done as efficiently and quickly as possible for the betterment of the country. And without those people, without quorum, it's not going to happen. So, for all those No Kings protests and everything, you have to be aware of the line of succession. You have to not want to take out the politicians, because if you do, all they're going to do is crack down. That's all that happened from Charlie Kirk in the long run. That's all that's happening with whenever anybody attacks ICE. They crack down more and more, and our freedoms are taken away. We have one moment of joy of, yes, we basically showed our spine against the authorities. Okay, and you got what? ICE having more freedoms to do what they want? Great plan. I'm not saying sit there and cater and cower to them, but don't go extreme. Be tactical. Be intelligent. And make it so that the politicians are terrified of you, so that they listen to you. That's the big thing. Case in point, Donald Trump is absolutely terrified, not of the standard people looking at the Epstein list, but the power brokers. The movers and shakers, the people who can release certain things, who can get the explanations to places like Britain, England, Canada, even Mexico, India. That is what you're terrified of, because that can ruin and continue to ruin the soft power of America. Because again, we may have supposedly the biggest military, but that doesn't matter if we can't do certain things in negotiation and greasing the wheels. If we have those, we can do everything without lifting a single gun. All of Pete Hegseth's Department of War will mean nothing. All because we paid somebody $100,000. That's it. Heck, we got more accomplished with the arms sales to India than we would going over and setting a battle group off of the Indian Peninsula. Guarantee it. But that is what you have to think about. Like, what is the leverage that you can actually mess on people with? And it's no different than anything else. It's no different than him taking away funding from certain areas. I mean, he sat there and he got rid of a lot of the Department of Education loans. I say fine, let it happen. Because here's the thing. Nobody is going to want to do anything much like they have here in America. We have already lost billions, if not trillions of dollars in tourism so far this year alone. We're going to have problems, and this is where it's really going to hurt us. When it comes to both the FIFA World Cup and the Olympics, those two things are happening. When fire season starts up again, when hurricane season starts up, when everything starts up, you are actively making sure that the longevity and the soft power and money is not going to be worth anything. Boeing is floundering against Airbus. Our military companies are moving as much as they can overseas to Europe because Europe is more stable, even being next to Russia. We're going to get nothing from Ukraine if we continue. And that's the big thing. Ukraine is basically telling us to go screw ourselves because of a bad negotiation technique that was Trump's and Putin's wish list. That's what people have to remember. Is if we continue to do that, and we continue to make stupid moves, it's going to be the long-term end for us. When they say America is no longer the greatest country in the world, the most powerful, they're not kidding. Now, you've got two options. You can either let everything continue to happen, or you can try and change it. We already saw some of the levels of change on the elections. Now, I believe it's next year midterm elections, right?
Yes.
So, 2026 midterm elections are going to be a changing of the balance of power. Now then.
The main election being 2028.
Mm-hmm. Now, when 2028 comes along, it doesn't matter how broken everything is. It could be absolutely wrecked thanks to the Trump administration. It could be absolutely wrecked by the midterms in 2026. You still vote for things to change. Not because on the off chance that you think it might not work, but on the off chance that you think it might. That it might change things. That is why, going back to an earlier point, Dick Durbin and the 7 others went across the aisle to make a deal. Because as much as everybody thinks that nothing is going to come from it, now remember, John Thune, yes, Senator John Thune and Representative Mike Johnson are now at each other's throats for what they're going to do. Mike Johnson will probably not have another chance after this to become Speaker of the House. He's messed it up because of his decisions, because of Trump's decisions, because of Russell Vaught's, because of everybody saying, Doge is gone. Yes, Doge got gone. They are making continuous mistakes over and over again. Heck, in Cleveland, where we left from months ago, I saw just today that they are begging for jobs for the U.S. Veterans Administration in Cleveland. There was a total of 6 jobs available on Indeed, of all things. Seriously. Not saying it's a great thing for them to be posting on that, but the fact that there's so many job openings in that area because everything has tanked. Because we had the shutdown for as many days as we did, everything got screwed. Not for just the people like you and I, but for the workers and the long-term systems. That is where it changes. If certain systems break, it will take longer to repair them. It is why ATC is broken right now, and every single offering that the federal government has given them, they've answered legitimately with a giant middle finger and an FU. Because they were working the entire time as essential workers, not getting paid. But because of that, because of what was done, it has torpedoed everything, and you cannot blame the Democrats for it, because the Democrats asked for one thing. They asked for the ACA subsidies to stay in place. And then there were 8 people who came from that side, technically 7 Democrats and 1 independent, because Rand Paul said he was not going to go for it at all. They came across the aisle and went bipartisan to get the country back together. They made the choice, they made the sacrifice. That is what should be taken away from it. Not that they betrayed, but they sacrificed that for the promise of the ACA subsidies being visited in December for January. That's when they made the continuing resolution to, so the country could get back together. They made the sacrifice. Not against their own principles, but for the country itself, for the people. So you and I could have food stamps. We could have air traffic controllers get paid. For everything that is federally funded to potentially have done that. Instead of sitting there and letting it continue to dig in their heels, because the ACA was never going to be given funding by Mike Johnson or those people, so they had to make a choice. And now those Republicans can be held accountable to say, yes, you agreed this. Yes, Senator John Thune, you agreed to this. And if you don't, we are going to absolutely make sure that your careers are totally and 100% torpedoed in the next vote to the point of annihilation. Because you don't give a damn about the American people. You care about your power and you care about your pocketbooks. And therefore, the American people will not forget. They will bring it up over and over again that you would rather have certain things happen than to have people get what they need to survive. And California will remember. That's why Prop 50 was voted for the way it was. Overwhelmingly and completely. It's why people are remembering how they have been betrayed by politicians. How things need to change. And there is no exception for this kind of behavior. But we must still remain with absolute fortitude and with absolute vigilance to hold these people accountable, not just by filing petitions and saying things need to change, but on the day that matters most. On that voting day, when you choose to decide whether you want the person who betrayed you or somebody else, while it may be the devil you know, is it continually acceptable? Just think on that.